Once again, thank you so much for stopping by. My name's Sai. I'm from Palo Alto Networks. Quickly touch a little bit about the challenges from security policy perspective in data centers. We are here, of course, at VMworld this time, and we're talking about our integration with VMware NSX platform and how we essentially bring advanced security to software-defined data centers, and how we also integrate with Tufin to actually have a uniform policy orchestration across your data center as well as public and hybrid clouds. The challenge with most of the security policies is they're very, very different and disparate and kind of spread across your public clouds, your private clouds, your data centers in general. So how do you kind of bring them together effectively so that you have one uniform security posture across your network? That's pretty much the challenge and the problem which we faced on a day-to-day basis. The other challenge which you normally see in almost across any kind of a data center is you have disparate security technologies spread across your network. You actually have, say for example, antivirus technologies. You have, of course, DNS protections. You have firewalls. You have IPS. You have IDS. Every one of them speaks its own language. Every one of them have their own security policy in place. The biggest challenge with that sort of a model is you have very limited visibility in general because they don't talk to each other. Since they don't talk to each other, they don't explain or share information about what is happening in your data center. You also have the bigger challenge of correlation. Correlation in the sense that if data essentially is being collected by these policies, then it's not being put together in such a way that it is meaningful as an end user for you. And more importantly, the bigger challenge is manual response. So you have the challenge of manually logging into each one of these systems, configuring your policies on that, and sort of bringing them together. And this is generally a big issue for most of the organizations. And organizations obviously want that single pane of glass, one place to go to and manage your security policy. So when it comes to software-defined data centers, Palo Alto Networks has collaborated with VMware, especially from an NSX standpoint, to essentially bring advanced security to NSX-enabled software-defined data centers. This integration is pretty mature. We have actually done this about 3 years ago. We have significant customer proof points now. The three key things which we do is, one is automation. It sort of counters the manual response problem which I talked about earlier. So you can fully automate the insertion of next generation firewall technologies into a software-defined data center. The second problem is your security policies. We actually have made them very dynamic in nature. As you can imagine, in a software-defined data center, you have the challenge of IP addresses constantly changing because you're bringing up VMs and bringing them down constantly, and IP addresses are changing, port and protocols are changing. So you need a policy structure which is able to handle that, and that's exactly what is achieved with our joint integration. So we are actually able to talk with VMware NSX Manager and simplify the security policy configuration and management within our management platform Panorama. Now with that said, what are the key use cases which we address from the integration perspective? The first one essentially is it brings together visibility into east-west traffic. So you actually have innate and granular visibility inside your software-defined data center, and you quickly realize what is happening, if it is happening, how do I actually negate any kind of threat which might be propagating within your data center. Advanced threat protection, of course, from known and unknown malware is also a key element for us. Now beyond that, we are also with our recent release of PAN-OS 7.1 a few months ago, we have actually brought in multi-tenancy support. So with multi-tenancy support, many organizations like yours are able to actually implement IT as a service within your environments. You effectively can cater to security policies unique to each and every department within your network, or security policies for, say, for example, for your partners, for your acquisitions. So you have that ability to segment and isolate your policies and manage them within our management platform. But the key thing to note out here is security is just one facet of your software-defined data center. You have the networking aspects of it. You also have your storage aspects of it. So how do you bring the policy of your software-defined data center together? And that's exactly where VMware, Palo Alto Networks have collaborated with Tufin to essentially bring that policy orchestration, that one single pane of glass ability to actually look into your software-defined data center and enforce policies for you. So Vikram is going to talk a little bit about how Tufin achieves this.
I'm Vikram, Director of Business Development at Tufin. I manage some of our key strategic partnerships, including Palo Alto Networks and VMware NSX. Tufin, as you know, as you may be familiar, is a leader in the security policy orchestration space. We have about 1,700 customers worldwide. Our customers are typically the large enterprise customers who have very complex heterogeneous networks, and if they have a significant need to maintain visibility, orchestrate policy, and maintain compliance across that network. So what does Tufin do, right? Essentially, if you think of these very large complex networks where you have infrastructure from multiple different vendors, including routers, switches, load balancers, and firewalls, and you want to maintain a comprehensive picture of your network across all of this infrastructure, and then also want to be able to manage your day-to-day changes on these networks in a consistent fashion, which is compliant with your security posture, and also while doing all of that, want to maintain a consistent compliance posture that your enterprise requires as well. How do you do all of that, right? So we are that single pane of glass solution that works across your physical, virtual, and your cloud environments, managing a security posture across all of those. So in a nutshell, if you have to depict what Tufin does, what we are essentially is we are that abstraction layer on top of all of the various different vendor environments out there, right? And on top of that, we offer 3 product suites, essentially 3 products. One which maintains, which provides you the initial visibility, security, and the compliance problem. It solves that problem for you, which is our Secure Track product. Then on top of that, once you have your visibility and visibility done, then you want to maintain, plug into your change management process. How do you manage your day-to-day changes on your firewalls and other infrastructure? That's where a secure change process comes in. It also plugs into your existing workflow processes as well. And the third product that we have is Secure App. And what Secure App does is it abstracts the problem out to the application level. So now instead of having an IP-based view of your network, you can have an application-based view of your network and then manage all of these problems, whether it's on physical or cloud infrastructure, from an application-centric point of view. So if you think about, okay, so how do we work then with Palo Alto and how do we work then with VMware, etc., it's essentially the same problem. So as you start to deploy your Palo Alto solutions, you're typically moving from some legacy environments, and you're very likely also doing some cloud projects on the side. So as you think about that problem, and as you move along the journey to the cloud or even expand your physical infrastructure with Palo, then how do you maintain that visibility and your compliance posture in the first place, or connectivity even in the first place? How do you do compliance on top of it? Like, I have a new set of users who have to be provisioned with this application that I just deployed behind my new Palo firewalls. Now, how do I provision this set of users with that connectivity to the application while ensuring that I'm not breaking any PCI rules, right? So how do you model that, and then how do you make that change in an automated fashion? All of that we can do today with both Palo Alto and NSX. And when you think about the ability to do all of that today, what does that enable you to do? If you were to do this manually back in the days, this would be a process that would take you a very long amount of time, an extensive amount of modeling and testing. But now we are able to reduce that whole process down to minutes, providing you, as a result, security with agility.